Welcome back to Rookie Mistakes, the sports podcast for the sports inept. I'm Ethan. That's Jeremy. Jeremy, what's going on?
What's going on, Ethan? Doing all right, man. How you liking your long weekend?
Long weekend's nice. I spent about 2 hours on a bus to Westfield, New Jersey today. About 150 stops. My stomach was in knots, but that's all right. What about you?
I'm having a good long weekend. There's nothing like a long weekend. I mean, look at us, though, grinding.
I know.
On a Monday
Grind
off.
never stops.
Federal holiday, we're giving you guys the content you want, so good on us, honestly.
Content you need. And today we are talking about basketball 101.
We are. Can I ask you something first? There's something we need to address.
Yes.
You're a bit of a freak. For context, everyone. Does
this have to do with my running history?
It does have to do with your running. It's exactly what it has
Yes.
to do with. Okay. I've been training, as some of you may know, for a half marathon, which is happening next week. I ran 9 miles yesterday, felt real good about it, did it at my race pace, which is a 9-minute mile.
9 at 9. That's
Super
good.
stoked. And then this morning, Ethan posts on Strava 16.8 miles at a 7:13 pace.
Yeah.
You're a maniac.
I'm a little bit of a freak, I must admit.
You're a maniac.
What's weird is my friends on Strava look at me and are like, this dude is ridiculous. I have friends on Strava who I look at who are running 5:30 pace for marathons. So I also have people who are high in the clouds. But I do run a lot. It is my sport. I always say, and this is a tidbit about me in sports, I'm always better in the second half of any sport because I have endurance that other people don't have.
I mean, that's great.
So if you put me in a basketball game, I won't perform so well the first half. But when everyone else is tired, that's when you should put me in.
You're still moving.
Yeah, I'm still moving. I'm still grooving. I'm doing my thing.
Dude, don't let anyone ever tell you you're not an athlete.
Yes.
Not that anyone has said that yet, but
That's
don't
true.
let them.
It's
in case
true.
they try, I've got your back.
Thanks,
You
Holmes.
run, you play volleyball, and I think you wanted me to download Strava just so that I could see how
You'd
much of
be
a
a-
beast you are.
My number one hype man. I will point out, Jeremy did join Strava. Catch him at Jeremy Schechter on Strava. He's got 4 followers.
Yeah.
Just enough followers for him to think that, my run on Friday being top of his newsfeed meant it happened the day of.
Yes.
But newsfeeds work, everyone, such that if you only follow 4 people, you're probably going to get a little bit of delayed content.
Yeah, I'm late to the Strava game, but
You're
that's
late
okay.
to the Strava game.
My 4 followers are very dedicated.
Yeah,
I love all 4 of you.
We love the content you're pushing out.
You, Jonah, Jolly, and Yona, you guys are a tight-knit crew.
Yeah.
I don't actually want any more followers. Please don't follow me.
Yeah, my sister's the same way. She has 1 follower, that's me, and I consistently comment on her posts, and that's all she wants.
That's
she doesn't want to
beautiful.
be too much more public than that. So
I can relate.
yeah.
So we're getting into basketball this week. We've moved beyond football. The Super Bowl craze is over, and we kind of want to break down the basics of basketball. But as we were talking about it, we kind of said, basketball is a pretty intuitive sport, right?
Yes, it makes sense generally.
Yeah, anyone can sit down and watch a basketball game and not be confused. If you sit down to watch a football game, you don't know how or why or what limitations they have on moving the ball, where they need to move the ball to. So it's a little more complicated. Basketball, ball goes in the hoop, teams play defense. Almost everyone has picked up a basketball and played knockout at some point in their life.
Exactly.
So people get it by and large.
Yeah.
So what we want to do today for you guys is give you a bit of the landscape of what today's NBA looks like, what the sport of basketball looks like, some key storylines that people have been talking about that you may hear about, and any questions, Ethan, you're going to have for this episode.
For sure.
We'll shoot them out there just because you're the voice
No
of the
pun
public
intended.
on this one.
We'll be shooting them indeed.
Good call, unintended, but that was a good pun. So the first storyline that I want to cover today is about scoring in the NBA. Scoring this season is at an all-time high.
Wow.
Just to give you a comparison, in 2004, which is 20 years ago,
Yes.
the NBA's average points per game was 97 points.
For one team.
For one team. A
Yep.
team averaged 97 points per game. This year, in 2024, the average points per game is 115.5. So up almost 20 points compared to 20 years ago, which is pretty insane.
Yes.
And there's a stat that they use in basketball called offensive rating. So if you guys are bored by this, we can maybe just cut this. But basically what that stat measures is how many points you score in every 100 possessions. And right now, that number is at 116, which is an all-time high in the NBA.
Yeah.
So the gist here is teams are scoring at an unprecedented rate. And there are a few reasons for that. The first and most important one is the three-point revolution.
Yes.
And this we've kind of talked about. You were out in San Francisco. You got to watch a few Warriors games.
Yes, Steph Curry is really the spearheader of this revolution.
Exactly. You witnessed firsthand what a lethal shooter like Steph Curry has done to the game. And essentially what it's done is it's showed how valuable the three-point shot can be. Mm-hmm. So just to give you guys a sense of how prolific three-point shooting has become, The three-point line was instituted in 1979. That was the first time they ever had this concept of a three-point shot. And in 1979, the average number of three-point shots taken per game was 2.8. Do you want to venture a guess as to how many this season average three-point attempts per game is?
And again, this is just for one team.
For one team.
I think it's going to be very high. I'm going to say high 10s, so like 19 or even upwards of low 20s, like 22, 23. I'm going to say 23.
So it's 35.
Wow, that's crazy.
In 2015, it was 24. So
Okay.
even in a 10-year span, it's gone up from 24 to 35 three-point attempts per game. So there's this clear emphasis by teams of 3 points is more valuable than 2. And players have gotten so good at shooting the three that if they're kind of in between or they're looking to create their own shot, they're looking to shoot for the three-pointer.
Yeah. And for a given player, a good three-point percentage, so the percentage that they make a three-pointer is, I think, like 40%. I mean, that's insane.
So that's a really good percentage. Back in the day, if you shot low 30s, like you were pretty solid.
Yeah.
Nowadays, the league average is around 36%.
Wow.
So if you're shooting below that, like you're considered a bad three-point shooter, which is insane.
That's crazy.
So yeah, guys are shooting way more three-pointers, and it's not just small players who are known as shooters. Like the big guys in the NBA, guys who are traditionally considered centers and they play down low and they bang around and get rebounds, like those guys can shoot threes too. So that's a big, big reason why there's so much scoring in the NBA. The other component about this scoring here is that players are honestly getting better. Like the league has gotten so much talent in the last few years that guys are just better at making shots. They make tough shots. If they're open, it's automatic. Guys do not miss. So I think it's a combination of the fact that guys are getting more athletic and they're getting better at the game. I also think there's a component of maybe less hard defense being played. I had a feeling
being lazy on defense.
Yeah, I think that's a big component. Guys don't want to get hurt as much. They play hard in the last few minutes of the game, but throughout the course of the game, guys are just getting like easier open looks.
Yep.
So I think that's a part of it because of the fact that the three-point shot is such a threat. This is kind of the last factor in the scoring boom. Defenses are trying to prevent teams from shooting threes. Therefore, when you are defending, you're coming further away from the basket to prevent a guy from shooting a three, which opens up the middle of the court for the offense. So there's more room for players to operate in that space, and then they get a lot easier looks from there as well. So it's kind of a combination of all those factors. But
do you think any of it contributes to just the number of fouls being called and shooting fouls and all of this stuff? I assume that it's gotten more over time.
Yeah, I do think so. I think there are more fouls being called nowadays than there were back in the 90s. If you guys have heard of the Bad Boys in Detroit,
yes,
those were some pretty gnarly teams, and they would hack you if
vicious.
you came into the paint. So there's definitely that factor. You can get away with a lot more as an offensive player because you'll get bailed out by the refs calling a foul for you. So yeah, I think that's a huge factor as well.
That's interesting. That's really cool. I have always been more of a traditionalist with basketball, and I'm no guru, but I've always respected more players like LeBron James, who's battling out in the center of the court and really like viciously pushing the ball than someone like Steph Curry. But at the end of the day, if Steph Curry's shooting at a ridiculously high percentage behind the three-point line, it's a no-brainer that you would want him on your team, maybe even more than someone like LeBron James.
Yeah, so true. I mean, his value in this day's NBA, where a more efficient shot for him is shooting three, and three gets you more than two, that's an unbelievably valuable player to have. So yeah, scoring is prolific. It's unbelievable right now in the NBA. You turn on a game and the games are always in the hundreds. So that's probably the key storyline for right now. Some of the other really cool storylines going on, there's a lot of young talent in the NBA right now. There's kind of a changing of the guard that's happening. So there are the classic players that a lot of people have heard of, LeBron James, Kevin Durant, some of those players who are more household names. And the big question is like, okay, well, what happens when those guys are out of the league? The NBA is a very star-driven league, right? So people watch because they want to see LeBron James play. They want to see Kevin Durant play. Who are these younger guys coming in who are going to be the next stars of the league? And there are so many of them. I'm going to just rattle off a few names for you guys to keep in mind. These guys are all within the ages of 24 to 27.
Okay.
Super young players. So Luka Doncic, probably the premier player right now in the NBA. He's 24 years old.
That's crazy because he's been a legend for like 3 years.
I know. He came into the league. He came from playing overseas and just immediately had an impact. He actually described a pretty cool thing. He talked about how it's way easier to get 30 points in the NBA than it is overseas, because in the NBA, they'll call fouls that they don't call overseas. So he gets to the free throw line a ton of times a game, and guys are more nervous to get close and foul because they know it'll get called. So he's been killing it. He's an absolute star.
And what team does he play for?
He plays for the Mavericks.
Okay.
Dallas Mavericks, yes. Jason Tatum, who's a point guard for the Celtics, who play in Boston. He's 25 years old. He's a star in the league. Another name that you guys probably haven't heard of, but he is an up-and-coming star. He's one of the best players in the league. His name is Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. He plays for the Oklahoma City Thunder. Amazing player. I won't list off all the names, but the bottom line is these guys coming into the league in their young 20s, mid-20s, they're the next guard of the NBA. So when guys like LeBron aren't in the league anymore, there is still this massive talent that's taking over for them.
Do you think this is the organic, passing down of the baton to the next generation, or do you think something's actually substantially different about this current situation?
When you say that, do you mean the players coming up have been trained differently, or are you
no? Do you think that the way we see LeBron James, we see Steph Curry, Kevin Durant, is the same way that 20 years ago, I guess, people saw Michael Jordan, people saw all of these other folks?
Yeah, it's a great
Kobe
question.
Bryant.
I think so. I mean, the big debate in basketball is obviously Michael Jordan or LeBron James. Having not watched Michael Jordan, it's an impossible question to answer. So I do think in 20 years from now or 15 years from now, the people I just mentioned, these young stars, they're going to be the ones who the next generation of fans say, like, oh my God, I can't believe I got to watch Luka Doncic play his whole career. Yeah. They're going to compare him to LeBron. Yeah. And LeBron is who we got to watch for his whole career. So yeah, I think that's true. What you're
it's
saying.
Interesting because it feels special, being able to see these players play, but at the end of the day, it's just a cycle.
Yeah.
It's a cycle of life when it comes to basketball.
I know. And it's kind of hard to have conversations. Like, I understand that people who grew up watching Michael Jordan, they get frustrated when people our generation talk about how LeBron is better, because they're like, well, you never got to watch and you couldn't really compare how dominant Michael Jordan was.
But it's weird because no one talks about that, I don't think, like they talk about watching football players, right? I don't think it's like, people watching Tom Brady. I mean, granted, you could say, I watched Tom Brady in a professional football game, but it doesn't have the same glamour and magic of seeing LeBron James in a basketball game.
Yeah, I think you're right. And I think most of the reason for that is that basketball is a 5-on-5 sport where the stars in the league have a really outsized impact. So if you're a quarterback, yes, you can have a really big impact, but there are 22 guys on the field at any given time in a football game. And for half the game, you're not on the field because you're not playing defense as the quarterback. Whereas a guy like LeBron, he can win Defensive Player of the Year award and he can score the most points in the league. So stars in the league definitely have an outsized impact in basketball.
That's fascinating. I also wanted to ask you, because you're throwing out all the different positions. There's center, there's point guard. Can you go through them? And they also have numbers attached to them. And some people say by the position name, and some people just throw out numbers like, oh, he's a 4 or 5. Yeah. I have no idea what those refer to. So could you break it down?
Yeah, let's go through it. So the first position is point guard. That's considered.
Take out your notepads, by the way. This will be good.
The one.
That's the one.
The one is considered the point guard. The point guard is what they call the floor general. He's the player who brings the ball up when your team starts on offense. He's the one who dribbles. He dishes the ball out. He passes to the team. He's the one who's trying to set up his teammates to get the best shot possible.
And Steph Curry's a 1.
Steph Curry is technically a 1 or a 2.
Okay.
A 2 is a shooting guard.
Okay.
They are primarily the first shooting option on offense.
And could you also go through the attributes of someone who plays this role? So how tall might they be?
So generally, point guards are the 1. They're usually a little shorter. I mean, by NBA standards, that's still 6'2". So they're still tall. But yeah, those guys usually can handle the ball really well. They dribble really well. They pass well. They usually can shoot, but they're quick. They're shorter compared to the rest of the players in the league, and they're primarily looking to pass and dish out for other guys.
Okay.
Yeah. And then there's the 2, which is called the shooting guard. And that player also generally more on the short side. Their role is to be a really, really good shooter. Now, in today's NBA, because guys are so tall and so big and strong, a lot of them can play multiple positions. So what we're going through now is a more traditional sense and understanding of what these positions are. So that's kind of the scope I'm going through this. But keep in mind that a lot of these guys can play multiple positions. So the shooting guard, someone like Steph Curry, they get the ball, they're looking to shoot, they're looking to hit the three-pointer, they're looking to, create for themselves. Then we move to the 3. And the 3 is the small forward position. Now, the small forward position is the one that kind of swings back and forth between looking for their shot, looking to create a little bit. They're generally on the bigger side, maybe around
Okay.
6'6" or 6'7". And those guys mid-range, so in between like a layup and a three-pointer, their
Okay.
mid-range game is usually very strong.
Okay.
So,
And who's someone I might know who's a small forward?
Someone you might know. It's funny, like earlier in his career, LeBron was considered a small
Okay.
forward. I would say nowadays, maybe Paul George. Have you heard of him?
Yeah.
So Paul George might be considered a small forward. Again, he's not small.
Yeah.
And he's probably 6'8", and he's a money shooter.
Yeah.
But I think someone like Paul George is probably closer to the small forward, maybe closer to a power forward, but he's maybe someone who falls into that category.
Okay. So that's 3, small forward.
So that's the 3, small forward. 4 is the power forward. Now, nowadays, that's someone like LeBron, someone who's thick. They can get up and down the court quickly, but they're usually on the bigger side. They're trying to bull their way into the hoop, get layups, and they're usually like 6'8" around. They're on the slightly bigger side. Sometimes they're 6'10"-ish.
Okay.
So these are big dudes.
Yeah.
But the power forward position in this day's NBA is a lethal position because so many of them have learned how to shoot the three-pointer really, really well. So if you're an excellent power forward in the NBA right now, you'll often be the team's leading scorer. Just because you match up well against guys who are taking you, you're quick, you can shoot, you can do a lot.
And you can both shoot behind the 3-point line, and you can probably like drive it and go underneath the basket and get an easy bucket that way.
Exactly. A guy like LeBron James can do it all on offense.
Exactly. Okay.
Yeah, so that's the 4, the power forward position. The last position on the court is the center, the 5. Now, traditionally speaking, the center was like the big 7-foot guy who stood in what's called the paint. That's the rectangle that you guys see near the hoop.
Yep.
That's typically where a traditional center would stand, and they would get there, they would back their guy down.
This is
under
like
the hoop.
Shaq. Shaquille
Exactly.
O'Neal. He was like,
Exactly.
the classic. Okay.
Yeah, and he's a big dude. He's trying to back his guy down as far as he can, turn, hit a layup, dunk on the guy. Like they're spending most of their
Take
time
down the rim.
Exactly. They're spending most of their time down there trying to get rebounds, trying to clean up the mess. And nowadays, they're the MVP of the league, not last year, but the 2 years before that, back-to-back MVPs. His name is Nikola Jokic. And even last year's MVP, Joel Embiid, they are considered 5s or centers.
Yep.
But they shoot the 3 incredibly well.
Yeah.
So guarding a center in today's NBA is really tough. If you're a center that can't shoot at all, you're really at a disadvantage. So that's the 1 through 5.
So it seems like the positions are blending together a little bit. Like, I assume most people can play multiple positions to some degree.
Yeah.
I assume they may even try out for multiple positions. Is that sort of how you should think about it at this time?
So I think in today's NBA, you don't really identify as a 1 or a 2. Like, I think guys can do so many different things that I don't think they really talk about it in those terms. I think the only reason they have this number system to begin with is so that when a coach is drawing up plays, instead of writing power forward, he's just writing 4.
I see.
So if he's drawing up a play and he's putting 1 at the top of the offense, 2 on the left, 3 on the right, 4 is down low, and then the 5 is in the paint, that's just an easier way for him to describe it. So at any given time, if you're on the court, you might be the 2 or you might be the 3, but I think generally speaking, you're not trying out for like a specific number, a specific position.
I gotcha. That's cool.
Yeah.
I never knew that. And honestly, it's not easy to find out that information online.
Yeah. It's fairly straightforward. It's just a simpler way to talk about it if you're a coach.
Nice. The other interesting thing, I just wanted to break from the numbers and talk
Yeah.
about the history of basketball.
Go for it.
I'm going to keep it short because I don't think that we got full attention during the history of football section, but history of basketball. What's really interesting, it began in 1891 with a PE instructor who actually was an instructor for the YMCA named Dr. James Naismith. He actually created the sport.
Naismith, yep.
He created the original sport with 13 different rules, and he actually had an interesting use for the baskets. They were not nets, they were actually baskets. And the first question I have for you, what actually was the original baskets in which Naismith chose for a basketball? I'm going to give you a multiple choice here.
Okay, yeah, please, because this is going to be tough.
A is fruit baskets. B is laundry hampers. C, Indonesian-style hand-woven baskets from his wife Sylvia. And D, shopping baskets from the neighborhood grocer.
I mean, C sounds so oddly specific.
Okay.
But it feels like you're trying to trip me up with that, so I'm going to go with D.
The answer is actually A. They were peach baskets.
Really?
So fruit baskets.
That's cool.
Yes.
Like little wooden woven ones?
Woven, and I think peach to be very, very specific.
That is oddly specific. Okay.
Yes. Also, the interesting part about basketball, to take it back a step, is he actually created it originally to be a less injury-prone sport than football. So the original basketballs actually had the football seam to them.
Really?
They sort of just looked like a bloated football. Very, very odd-looking object.
Huh. And they would they throw it like a football, or did they shoot it like we picture people shooting a basketball now?
I think that they did neither. The object was still, well, I won't get to the objective itself because I have a couple other things to say. So he created 13 rules for the game. And my next question for you is, which of the below was not one of the 13 rules he published?
Okay.
A, the ball may be batted in any direction with one or both hands.
Okay.
There's actually 5 of them. So do you want to say right now whether you think that was an original or non-original rule of the sport that he created? What are you leaning towards?
I'm leaning towards yes.
Okay. B, a player may use their head to strike the ball out of bounds for a goal.
So you're saying these are 5 rules that exist right now?
He created 13 rules for the game.
Okay.
I'm saying 5 of them. One of these is the odd man out, and I want you to tell me which one was not actually an original rule he created for the sport.
Do you know if that odd one out is a rule today or no?
I don't know.
Okay.
Yes, I don't know.
Okay, fine. But one of these is not an original rule. Okay.
Yes. So B, a player may use their head to strike the ball out of bounds for a goal.
Okay.
Do you have an inclination on whether you think that was an original?
Wait, they can use their head to hit the ball out of bounds
for a goal.
For a goal? What do you mean? Like they can get...
Like, do you think that was an original rule for the game of basketball?
Well, none of it makes sense to me.
Okay. So
I'm going to say no.
Okay. A foul is striking the ball with the fist.
I'm going to say yes.
If a player rests on the edge and the opponent moves the basket, it shall count as a goal.
I'm going to say yes.
If a player scores more than 20 goals, they must take a required break for 10 minutes.
Also, yes, just for like fairness of competition. So I'm going to say B is the odd one out.
Okay, so a little bit of a trick question because B was the odd one out.
Yes,
but
let's go.
Also E, the last one, A, B, C, D, E, was also a fake one that I made up.
Nice.
This player scoring more than 20 goals, they must take a required break. Sort of a ridiculous rule, but I do think that I had the same, I was trying to get you with the same competitive nullification that that you mentioned.
That was smart.
So yes, 2 of those were not true, but to go through the ones that he actually did create, the ball may be batted in any direction with one or both hands. A foul is striking the ball with a fist, a little bit of a ridiculous rule originally.
Silly.
And then if a ball rests on the edge and the opponent moves the basket, it shall count as a goal.
That's still true today. That rule is still true.
That's
I
very
think
funny.
batting the ball is as well. I don't think you're allowed to like punch the ball out of bounds. I think that's a violation.
Are you allowed to punch the ball at all?
No, I don't think so.
Anyway, so he made 13 rules. Those are 3 of them. The other 2 actually did not exist, but they're interesting. They're on Wikipedia. We can send it in the show notes below. A couple other interesting tidbits about the history. First professional league in 1898. 6 teams took part in the NBA. First champions were the Trenton Nationals, followed by the New York Wanderers.
Oof.
First recorded game between college teams occurred in 1895.
Who played in that one?
Hamline University faced Minnesota A&M.
Really?
Later becoming part of the University of Minnesota.
Hamline and Minnesota A&M. It's funny because the first 2 football teams were Rutgers and Princeton.
Yes.
a lot more standard.
Exactly. Minnesota A&M won the game.
Nice.
I was going to ask you when the 3-point line was introduced, but you actually said that earlier in the pod.
1979. Bang.
1979. The slam dunk. I don't know if you know the actual background of the slam dunk.
I do not.
So, first of all, I don't know if you knew this, but the slam dunk was actually eliminated from the game in the 60s because Kareem Abdul-Jabbar made headlines and they actually said it was too easy and they made it such that you couldn't do it in a game for about 10 years. A lot of people at the time thought it was racially motivated because apparently most of the people who dunked back then were black athletes.
Huh.
And then the phrase slam dunk, as opposed to dunk. I think dunk was actually originally with the sport, but slam dunk was first used by Los Angeles Lakers announcer Chick Hearn, I think in the 60s. And it was actually his catchphrase, the slam dunk.
Good for Chick.
So yeah, he has a legacy beyond belief. So cool stuff.
That's pretty cool. So this was Kareem in the 60s?
Yes.
Because I feel like Wilt Chamberlain was also just dunking on everyone in the 60s, maybe the late 50s for Wilt.
Yeah, I wouldn't know.
I mean, he got 100 points. He's got the scoring record.
Crazy.
Because he was just so much bigger than everyone. He would just turn, face the hoop, and just put it in.
Was it that easy, though? I mean, it wasn't that easy.
There was a season where he averaged 50 points a game.
That's crazy.
The sport was too easy for him. But also, nowadays, he wouldn't be able to do that because everyone is that big. But back then, he was just
So he was just a massive dude that
was just
completely overpowered everyone else.
Yeah, I mean, I think he also had a tremendous amount of talent, but he was just so much bigger and stronger than everyone. He just completely dominated.
Do you think he actually had talent, or he just was 100 pounds heaviver than everyone else on the court?
I think he was just like 7 feet and everyone else was not.
Yeah.
But I do think he probably had some talent.
I mean, people do. I've heard the name before, so that suggests that he is someone that's a Hall of Famer and to be remembered.
Yeah. He's like a great of all time, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. So of those original 6 teams, are any of them still in the league now, or are all of those teams totally different?
I do think that there are a few in the league now, but I would have to look that up. I don't know.
Okay. No worries. Because in hockey, I know the original 6, like some of them are still in the league today.
Yeah.
I thought maybe the Celtics
And
or the Lakers.
football too. Chicago Bears, who were not the Chicago Bears at the time. But
Oh, yeah, you're
else.
right. They morphed into whatever it is. Maybe that's the same thing with basketball. Yeah. So in terms of the last couple of storylines for you guys to keep in mind that are going on right now in the league in the last few years, the international players have been dominating basketball. The last 5 MVPs are all international players, not American players. Giannis Antetokounmpo, Nikola Jokic, and Joel Embiid, all guys who are not from the U.S. And there are Luka Doncic, for example, international player. There are so many guys who have come from overseas to the NBA and are absolutely crushing it. So that's a huge component of the
And
game
also
today.
the Adam Sandler movie Hustle. Did you see this?
I haven't, no.
Do you know anything about it?
Is it about Giannis?
No, it's about another Spanish dude. I don't know his name, but it was his whole story. Adam Sandler was the agent, and he actually got him to come to the U.S.
Oh,
he actually
cool.
plays in the league today.
Oh, really?
Yeah, you would love the movie.
Oh,
I
I gotta-
actually forgot who it was. So.
Okay, I'll look it up. I am notoriously bad at watching sports movies. Like, I haven't seen so many of the classics. I'm not going to out myself right now on
Okay.
which ones I haven't seen.
Have you seen The Mighty Ducks?
I have seen the Mighty Ducks.
I knew you would like that one.
I have seen the Mighty Ducks. But there are others that everyone's like, dude, you haven't seen this movie? I'm not going to, like, Hoosiers. Haven't seen Hoosiers. Don't come for me, people. I haven't seen it. But yeah, international players just absolutely killing it in today's NBA. Just so you guys are aware, the top 2 teams in the NBA right now, the Celtics are the top team in the Eastern Conference. The Minnesota Timberwolves, which is a big surprise this year, they are the top team in the Western Conference. And then there are 2 historically bad teams in the NBA right now. The Detroit Pistons are currently 8-46, 8 wins, 46 losses. At one point this season, the Pistons broke an NBA record, losing 28 straight games.
That's crazy.
Crazy.
So if they lose and continue to lose, then they're going to get a first draft pick. Is that how it works?
Not exactly. Not exactly. We can do another episode on drafts, but they will have the best odds at getting the first pick.
I see.
But it's still a lottery, basically, where a ball pops out of a machine, and if that's your number, then you get the first pick. But there's not as much of an incentive for the Pistons to tank the rest of their season because they're not guaranteed to get the first pick. In football, if you're the worst team in the league, you're guaranteed the first pick. Not the case in basketball.
And the probability that you're actually picked from this lottery and the ball pops out, that doesn't have to do with your exact record. It probably just has to do where in the standings you are.
Exactly. You could have a solid season, but everyone else had a better season, and you'd still have the best odds.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
then,
drafts are crazy. We'll have another episode on that.
Yeah, we
I
should
have
do
no idea how
a
they work.
full episode on how drafts work in different sports because it's wild.
Yeah.
And then the Washington Wizards are 9-45. The only reason people aren't talking about them is because of how bad the Pistons are, but the Wizards are really, really bad.
That's funny.
The Pistons right now, their win percentage is bottom 10 of all time. If they continue like this, they will be known as one of the worst teams ever. The Wizards are currently 12th in terms of their win percentage in worst of all time. So 2 pretty historically bad teams. If anyone talks to you guys about those being their favorite teams, you should have some sympathy for them.
Yeah, for sure.
And then some key concepts for you guys to know. For the playoffs in the NBA, there is a new format that started a couple years ago where there are 2 conferences. There's the Eastern Conference and Western Conference. The top 7 teams, the top 6 teams in each conference get an automatic bid to the playoffs.
Okay.
And then there's teams 7, 8, 9, and 10. And those teams play in what's called a play-in tournament. And the top 2 teams of those 4 then get spots 7 and 8 for the playoffs. So 8 teams total technically make the playoffs
From
but
each division.
from each conference.
From each conference.
But even if you're team 9 or 10 when the standings end at the end of the season, you still get a chance to make the playoffs because you get to be part of that play-in tournament.
I see. And there's only 20 teams in the entire NBA?
No, there are 32 teams.
So there are
30
6
teams.
Okay, so there are 15 in each conference.
15 in each conference.
I see.
And then the top 10 in each conference kind of make the playoffs. It's a
Yeah.
lot of teams, but ultimately it dwindles down to the top 8 in each conference.
Has the play-in tournament always been a thing?
No, it started I think 3 or 4 years ago maybe.
Okay.
Yeah, it's relatively new.
Did people like it or did people bash it?
I think people like it because it gives more teams a chance to be invested during the season.
Yeah.
Like historically, if your team was the 11th seed or the 12th seed in your conference and you had 8 games left to play in the season, like your season's over. You're kind of done. Now you can fight for that last 10th spot to give your team a chance to make it. So I think it keeps more fans and more teams invested until really the last game of the season, which is kind of what the NBA was going for. That being said, if you're a 7 seed and you're 10 games better than the team who's 10th and they happen to beat you in that first round matchup or the second round matchup, the way it actually works is a little more complicated, so we don't need to get into that. But like you might feel a little shafted being the team that had a way better season, but because it's 2 games that determine the playoff spot, you got screwed.
Another thing I just want to point out, a quick misconception that I had. Dr. J is not Michael Jordan.
No.
Put that out there right now.
You thought that was Michael Jordan?
Not like up until definitely college. I only found that out. So I know there are people out there like me. Julius Randle.
Julius Erving.
Julius Erving.
Julius Randle
is a basketball player
on the Knicks right now. Yes,
Julius
Dr.
Erving.
J is Julius
We will
Erving.
not cut this, even though I want to. Julius Erving.
Good. We're learning from our mistakes.
Who is the dude?
He played in like the 70s. He was
a legend.
Yeah, legend.
Okay.
Dr. J was famously known for his layup where he went up on one side of the hoop, would grab the ball in his right hand and palm it, and then sneak
it under.
around to the other side and scoop
People
it under.
do that now, and they call it the Dr. J.
Dr. J, yeah. He was a pretty swaggy dude.
Another thing that I wanted to ask about, the NBA logo. I thought it was Michael Jordan.
No.
It's not. It's Jerry West.
It's Jerry West.
Who the fuck is that?
Jerry West is a player who used to be on the Lakers. His nickname is the Logo. Why he became the Logo, I'm actually not sure. I actually don't even think Jerry West won a championship. I could be totally wrong about that. But yeah, like
what percent of people do you think Jerry West is the Logo? Not many. I mean, it's not going to be over 50.
No way. Like if you asked, you're saying like
no over percent of people that watch basketball, and I'm going to even say men.
Oh, you're saying like people who watch the NBA?
Yeah.
I would guess like 80%.
Okay. Well,
yeah.
There you go.
Maybe.
We'll have to send out. That'll be our next
That'll be our poll.
Yeah, podcast poll.
Yeah. No, yeah, that's Jerry West, the Logo.
Okay, awesome. I just wanted to get those off my chest.
Yes, that's fair.
Last thing I wanted to ask you about, the luxury tax.
Yeah.
What, dude?
We can't get into the luxury tax right
We
now.
won't get into the luxury tax. That'll be next pod.
Is for our next finance pod that we start together. That's going to be way too complicated.
Okay, sounds good. Okay, now I wanted to get into something else that I've been thinking about. So I watched the NBA a little bit.
Okay.
I actually think I watch it a good amount. Obviously, I didn't know who Jerry West is, nor Julius Erving.
Yeah.
But I do watch it a bit, and I actually think I'm notoriously good at predicting the shit players in the NBA.
Okay.
Before they're shit. And
really?
two of my close friends, Danny and Jonah, think I'm ridiculous for this, but I have certain players in the NBA who I freaking hate. Most of them are University of Michigan alums because I get a sense for the play
them in college.
Yeah, and I get a sense for their play style, and I'm a more traditionalist. So like people like Jordan Poole.
I was about to say,
I fucking hate
can
that
I
kid.
Please make a prediction for the first
Yeah.
the first guy you're going to say? I knew you were going to say Jordan Poole.
Even there was that one season in March Madness where he had a buzzer
Crazy
beater to get to the championship,
Yeah.
and I hated him from that point forward. I thought he was too much of a fool. He was too much of a hothead. He was too narcissistic and just self-involved. Another player like this, Draymond Green, obviously, I'm going to get back to him.
Yeah.
Another player that I immediately thought I hated, Duncan Robinson, not a great player in my book.
I love Duncan.
I just think he's too weak. I think he doesn't play defense. I think he needs to put on a little weight.
He's been a pretty key role player for the Heat the last few years. He's a good player.
But not this year. Or
yeah,
not the past
Heat
couple
have
years.
been meandering. I don't know.
I will also say on that same note, I think I'm pretty good at finding talented players before they reach their prime, including...
Wait, one quick correction. Draymond Green, you might not like him. A lot of people don't like him. Pretty good player.
So we can get to that. I don't respect him. I think I respect humility above all else.
Okay.
And I don't think... And also, I just took a quick screenshot of Draymond Green's suspension and ejection. He has... 19 ejections in his career, more than any other active player.
Yeah, he's a dirty player.
He's a dirty player. He's just a shit human being, it sounds like. So anyway, we might have to cut that. That was a little harsh.
Draymond Green.
But on that same note, I do find talent before it reaches their prime. I should be a scout, I want to say, but people like Jimmy Butler, when he was back on the Bulls, I loved him. Kawhi Leonard, obviously, you could probably pick him out early on that he was going to be a good player.
Well, how early on? Are you saying when he was at San Diego State?
I didn't know what college Kawhi Leonard went to. But like in the first couple seasons before he really really became a name brand
Uh-huh.
in the past 5 years,
Got
winning
it.
with the Toronto Raptors.
Okay.
Another person who I really respect, Russell Westbrook. He's a little bit more controversial because I don't
He
really
is.
know how
He plays hard.
He plays
He
hard.
plays hard. He cares a lot about the game, which I respect, but he's definitely brought down some of his teams.
And honestly, as someone who can run 15.6 miles on a random Sunday, that's what I respect more. Monday, actually. That's what I
15.8,
respect.
dude. Don't shortchange yourself.
It's the hard workers. It's the defense. It's running down the court. It's never giving up on a play. So these are the players who I respect most.
Okay. All right. I don't know if I can give you full credit for discovering Kawhi Leonard, but
Yes.
early on in his career, if you knew
True.
this guy's going to be a stud, sure.
But the other interesting part about this, which I must say I am completely, I guess I can't see, is people like Luka who just don't look like an athlete.
Yeah.
You know, like I would pick Giannis, who looks like a fucking Greek
Yeah.
sculpted god,
Beast.
over Luka any day. But like you have these players,
Or Jokic.
Or
Jokic doesn't
Jokic.
look athletic at all.
Yeah,
but
it's crazy.
He dominates.
and I don't get it. And I think there's a lot of people who don't get it, who are like, how can someone like this dominate so much? And I completely agree with that sentiment.
So, in my opinion, I think a lot of it has to do with how smart their game is. So, Luka understands how much a guy can play up on him on defense before he's going to foul. So, he knows how much space he's going to have on a shot, and he practices that all day, every day. So, if he has a fraction of space, he's not going to miss.
Yeah.
A guy like Jokic, because he's so tall, he can get his shot off over anyone. He also has amazing vision of the court, so he can make incredible passes. And the reason someone like that is so tough to guard is because he's 7 feet tall. Normally, you have to worry about a 7-foot guy within 12 feet of the basket. Him, you have to guard at 25 feet at the three-point line. So
Yeah.
he's stretching out the defense in a way that's very unique. So guys who are really versatile like that, who have great court vision, they understand the game well, and they play smart, like, they're just so dangerous.
Interesting stuff. I think that we should go into a little bit of a test I had for you.
Okay.
So what I did is I decided to pick 3 different players, going from players I knew to players I've never heard of in my fucking life.
Okay.
And give you specific details about the player, whether it be the amount of points they're scoring in a game, maybe some teams they played for, and have you guess the player.
Okay, let's do it. These are active players.
These are all active players.
Okay.
The first player I'm going to give you, the first description is this. He's played for 4 different teams, drafted in 2009. He currently plays for the Clippers, and his best season, based on number of points he had, was in 2018 and 2019, and he had 36.1 points per game.
36 points a game. He currently plays on the Clippers. He's played on 4 teams. Are you going to give me any of the other teams he played on or no?
I'm
you
not
don't
gonna,
have to. There are only 2 options.
Okay, I'm not going to give you.
He was drafted in 2009, you said?
Yes.
Ooh. I am going to go with... Wait, how many teams did he play on? Pacers, Clippers. It's either Kawhi or Paul George. I am going to guess... This is a current... Uh-oh. Uh-oh.
I got to look at what team he plays for now. I got to make sure I got that right.
Oh, no.
Yes, it's not one of those players.
This is a current Clippers player?
A current Clippers player, played on 4 different teams, drafted in 2009, had 36 points per game.
31.6.
36.1.
36 points a game in 2019?
2018-2019 season.
That's so recent. Is he active right now? You've heard of this guy?
Yeah. I've heard of this guy. He definitely is past his prime.
Yeah, I mean, I'd imagine.
Yeah. Also, he definitely topped off in 2018-2019. This isn't like an average season for him, obviously, but he hasn't even gotten close to that any other season.
Jeez, I should know who it is. It's not Zubats. He's not that good.
Don't know who that is.
It's not. No, I should know.
You should know.
You want to give me his initials?
JH.
JH. All right, you know what? Just tell me before it gets more embarrassing.
James Harden.
Oh, I'm so dumb. Oh, my God. That's actually really dumb. Okay, James Harden is an obvious one. Okay, yeah. He also is the only
And
player
I said
on
it
that
was going to
team.
get easiest to hardest, so it's only going
So
harder.
it's only going harder? Okay, I feel stupid. I forget that James Harden is on the Clippers because he's had such a weird
He's played for
roundabout
4
career.
teams.
He played
Yeah.
on the Rockets, on the Nets, on the Sixers, and I guess, yeah, this is his 4th team. All right, that's dumb.
Okay.
Any of you basketball fans listening are probably pulling out your hair for that one.
Yeah, that's
my
okay.
bad.
You can redeem yourself here.
Okay.
But it's, again, like, now you shouldn't feel ashamed because these are going to get tricky.
Okay.
He's played since 2017. He currently plays for the Washington Wizards. A quick tangent. What is a GP?
GP.
It's
games played.
Okay. Hey, not so important, but he's got a GP this season of 52 and
So
a GS. What's GS?
Games started.
And then a 52, so he started all games he's played.
He's a starter for the Wizards.
He's a starter for the Wizards.
Okay.
80.1 field goal percentage,
No, that can't be.
Okay.
80.1 field goal percentage or free throw percentage?
Free throw percentage.
That makes more sense.
Okay. 80.1 free throw percentage, 21.8 points per game.
I'm going to say Kyle Kuzma.
Nice.
There we go.
Boom,
Okay.
baby. 32.9 field goal percentage.
That makes a lot more sense.
And what is a field goal is just not a three-pointer.
No, three-pointers count as field goals, but field goals are just any shot that you take from the field. They give you a separate stat for three-point percentage.
Nice. Okay,
Yeah.
Good shit.
All
That
right,
was
I got
fast.
Kuzma and not Harden. Okay, let's keep going.
Okay, last but not least, this man I've never heard of before.
Really? Oh, boy.
However, he is in the top 100 players in the NBA right now. He is number 98.
In terms of points scored?
I have no idea. NBA came out with a list. He's number 98. So
Random.
So he's 98th in line.
All right.
He was not in the top 100 players last year, but that's just
Okay, so he's
better.
up and coming.
He's up and coming, I guess.
What year was he drafted?
Well,
You give me the facts that
okay.
you pulled
He
about
has
him.
played 6 seasons
Okay.
for 5 teams,
5 different teams.
including the Nets and Pistons.
Okay.
He has won 1 NBA championship.
Ooh.
He has averaged 8.9 points per game, 4.3 rebounds, and 2.5 assists, and he is a small forward.
A small forward who played on the Nets and the Pistons. He won an NBA title. Are you allowed to? And he's the 98th player. I mean, that's a lot of players to be worse than, but also he's still top 100. He's been on the Pistons and the Nets. Do I get one more hint?
Yes, and I'm going to ask you which of these hints you want.
Okay.
You can either get what team he won a ring on or who he plays for currently.
Give me who he plays for currently.
Okay, he plays for currently the Toronto Raptors, but I don't think he starts usually.
He plays for the Raptors, won a title. He's been on... man. This is a top 100 player. This is bad because the Nets are my team, so I should know who this is. It's not Bruce Brown. This is a small forward.
Why is it not Bruce Brown?
Is it Bruce Brown?
It's Bruce Brown.
Is it Bruce Brown?
Yeah.
Okay. He won a title with the Nuggets.
Yes, he won a title with the Nuggets.
I didn't know he was on the Raptors now, which is why I was confused.
Yes.
I should have gone team that he won a title with.
Yes.
Okay. You know
Bruce
what?
Brown. So
Bruce
who is
Brown.
Bruce Brown?
I get half credit.
Who is the dude?
Bruce Brown, he's just a good role player in the NBA. He's a pretty stingy defender, got a good mid-range floater game.
Nice. Bruce Brown, 98
Brown.
of 100. Is he on the rise?
Nah.
Okay,
Nah,
word.
he'll float right around 100 for sure. But I was thinking, is Bruce Brown a top 100 player? Yeah, I guess he is.
I mean, he's 98th.
He's on the fringe.
He's on the fringe, yeah.
Okay, so I got Bruce Brown.
He's going to flirt with that line for a little bit, top 100. So.
Yeah. I got Kuzma. I did not get James Harden. That's embarrassing.
Wow. Yeah, James Harden you should have gotten. But Kyle Kuzma and Bruce Brown were killer. So
Okay.
we're
This is fun.
Yeah, we're gonna give it to you that you knew James Harden and good stuff. We'll have to do it
Thanks.
with other sports. I know you're a big hockey fan. I don't know
Ooh.
anyone about anyone who plays hockey, so
Okay.
I'll have to really
that'll be tough.
go
For
to
me
the
also,
catalog.
naming hockey players just because I won't be able to pronounce their names. That'll
Yeah.
be funny.
hold my beer.
Hold my beer. Can't forget about hold my beer.
Forget about hold my beer for sure.
So a few quick hitters for Hold My Beer this week. A reminder for you guys, Hold My Beer is what you need to know about what's going on in the sports world right now. This is what people are talking about actively. So the first thing, because we're talking about basketball, the NBA All-Star Game happened this weekend. The NBA All-Star Game is dumb. If anyone from the NBA is listening, I'm sorry. You know it's dumb also. The final score of the game was 211 to 186.
Talk about no one playing defense.
Literally nobody playing
Yeah.
defense. And the reason is nobody wants to get hurt and there's no incentive for the players to play hard. So it's genuinely so dumb. Orly and I watched the game for 5 minutes and we were like, what the hell is this?
Can you bet on the NBA All-Star
Yeah,
game?
you can.
Really?
But why would you?
Yeah.
It's actually
The over-under is like 400 or something.
It must be. It
Yeah.
must be. This is the first time a team has scored over 200 points.
Absurd.
Just absolutely insane. So
Were
the
there any
All-Star game is-
highlight dunks though?
I'm sure there were. Really, the highlight of All-Star Weekend is the three-point contest and the dunk contest.
Nice.
But even those, at least the dunk contest has gotten less and less exciting over the years because stars of the NBA don't participate in it like they used to. Like back in the day when Vince Carter was the best dunker in the league, or even Kobe participated, or Michael Jordan participated in the dunk contest when he was in the league. Nowadays, LeBron is not participating in the dunk contest. These guys just don't care enough to do it. Like,
it's not because they're going to get injured. It's just they don't give a shit.
maybe they don't want to get injured, but also like, yeah, they don't care. Like, what do they need that for? On the other hand, the 3-point contest still has some star power. There are guys like Steph Curry who do it, Damian Lillard. So
Nice.
those are big names. Dovetailing off of that, there was actually a competition this year between Steph Curry and this woman, Sabrina Ionescu, who is currently a basketball player in the WNBA.
Okay.
And she is a lethal shooter. She's an awesome 3-point shooter. And they had the two of them compete against each other in a 3-point shootout. Sabrina Ionescu started with a round of 26, and then Curry beat her with 29 points. But it was a really, really close competition. Very, very cool thing. I think it was probably the most watched part of the weekend.
Yeah.
Definitely what had the most
really
buzz,
cool.
which is awesome.
Did you watch it live?
I didn't watch it live. No, I didn't. But I watched some highlights. It was cool.
Okay.
It was very cool.
So-
They're both unreal shooters.
Yeah. So he won the 3-point contest, and then who won the dunk contest?
So Damian Lillard won the 3-point contest. Steph won this like Sabrina Ionescu, Steph Curry's 3-point challenge.
Was Steph in the competition?
He was not.
Okay.
He has been in the past. He's won it multiple times, but he was not in it
I
this
see.
year. Yeah. So the Mac McClung is the guy who won the slam dunk contest. This is his second year in a row winning it. Mac McClung is not even in the NBA. He is a G League player, which is like the minor leagues for basketball. He's crazy hops. Like, he's a really exciting guy to watch, but like, they have to bring in guys like him to get people interested because like NBA stars just don't care.
That's so annoying.
I know. It's
really annoying.
it's pretty nuts. So that's it from the All-Star game. A couple other notes. Caitlin Clark, who we've talked about on previous episodes.
Yeah.
She just set the women's NCAA scoring record.
Crazy.
Yeah, she's just an absolute
She's nuts.
beast.
I saw the highlight from her like 49-point game.
Yeah.
She looked insane.
Yeah, she's so good, dude.
She's like Steph. She just pulls up from anywhere.
From everywhere. She broke the record on a 3, like basically from half court.
Insane.
And she just like trots back. But yeah, like she broke the record and then in that game scored a career high 49 points, broke the Iowa school record. So like she's just awesome. She's so cool.
Orly's got to start wearing that jersey more.
I know she should. People like Caitlin Clark's becoming a household name.
Yeah.
If she goes out on the street, people are going to take
if
more
she goes to
pictures.
bars, you know she's getting her drinks paid for.
I know, for sure. The only person Caitlin Clark is now chasing, there are actually two. So there's a woman named Lynette Woodard. She technically has the scoring record for women's college basketball, but she set the record before the NCAA officially acknowledged women's basketball as part of the NCAA. So again, Caitlin Clark is like maybe 50 or 60 points from breaking her record, so she's going to do that. The only person left to chase is men's basketball player Pete Maravich. He currently has 99 more points all time in college than Caitlin Clark does. So that's who she's chasing down next. She's going to get there. She's just an absolute
crazy.
beast. Very cool.
What grade is she in?
She is a senior.
Okay.
I love how you asked that. Like, is she in 4th grade?
Yeah.
And then last piece here, I thought this was really cool because I'm big into YouTube. You are as well.
Yes.
As an employee. But there is a tournament going on called The Q at Myrtle Beach, and it's a golf tournament for golf YouTube creators. And the winner of the tournament gets to participate in the next PGA tournament.
That's so crazy.
Really crazy. I mean, these guys are really good golfers, but like the fact that you can now get into a professional tournament where the pot for that is $3.9 million for the winner, the like bigger pot is obviously larger, but the fact that you can be a YouTube creator, win a tournament of 16 creators, and then be on a professional tournament, it's so cool.
But also, like, why are they limiting it to YouTube creators? Like, you got to imagine there's a bigger pool of reserve golf players who like actually are better at the sport. Who, you know, it's like Invincible. You ever watch the movie Invincible?
I haven't, no.
It was like Mark Wahlberg just decided to like walk onto the Philadelphia Eagles when they were having a shit season, and he walked on and like made the team, and it was this whole thing of like they sourced from the Philly community just like anyone who wanted to try out. And
that's kind of cool.
Yeah, it was a great movie. You should watch that one. That was a good one.
Okay.
But like, you know, YouTube creators already make enough money. You don't need to have them all bundle up in Myrtle Beach. I guess it's not cold, but you know what I mean.
No,
get together and like now get more freaking airtime.
You're right. I do believe there would probably be guys who are upset about it, who like play golf professionally and don't get this chance. But like, if you're the PGA, it's so smart. Like this is
it's
what
a moneymaker.
Young people care about. People are watching, even older people. Like people are watching these guys on YouTube. I will watch the tournament just to watch the one guy who wins this tournament, and I'll watch this Q tournament just so that I can watch the 16 creators. Like. It's really smart and really, really cool. Is it unfair? Maybe, because they didn't have to go through the same process as all the other guys who are professionals, but like they are really good golfers and they're bringing eyeballs to the sport. So like it might be
and
unfair,
golf needs
but,
it.
Like,
so
yeah, exactly. Golf needs it. So it's
any big creator,
cool.
like creator names that you know of?
Yeah, I mean, a couple guys that I watch, Grant Horvat, Micah Morris, like
Nice.
guys who I watch on YouTube, but
Nice.
I'm rooting for them. Like, it's so cool.
Yep.
Yeah, so that's it for Hold My Beer.
Okay, another quick thing I just want to add. The world record holder for the men's marathon actually just passed away tragically in a car crash. 24 years old.
Oh, my God.
Kelvin Kiptum, he actually won the Chicago this year with a 2:01:30 total time.
Oh, that's horrible.
Really, really, really sad story. He was up and coming, a really potential, breaking 2-hour marathon time. He died with his coach and trainer in a car crash in Kenya.
Damn.
And I think that happened just about a week ago. I forgot it last week for Hold My Beer, but definitely something that, everyone should look into. He was a great, great runner. So I looked up to him deeply.
Wow, damn.
Yeah.
Sorry, that stinks.
Yeah. Sorry to end on such a low note.
No, that's okay. If we want to end on a more positive note,
Yes.
we can get to some of the questions that people submitted.
Let's do it.
So I'll ask you this question first. Do you leave a game early if your team is clearly going to lose?
I do, for sure. But if there are still really, really good all-stars playing in the game and I rather stay to just see them play, if LeBron James is still playing, I probably would stay just to see him.
Okay.
And if anyone's close to, hitting a record or, breaking some barrier of like points per game, like a personal record or a team record or something like this.
Going on.
Or if it's close to, I guess I was going to say if it's close to overtime, but it's obviously not if my team's getting destroyed.
Yes. Yeah. I think I agree with you. Like, unless I'm there to watch someone special, like I've only seen LeBron in person twice, I think.
Yeah.
So to watch him, yeah, I'd probably stay. But I if my team is getting smacked, like, I'll probably leave early.
Yeah.
Which is sad.
Yeah.
This next question, I'm sorry we forget who submitted both of these. I think Kyla submitted that first one. Thanks, Kyla. The second one is, I think, really interesting. Which sport, in your opinion, requires the most athleticism from its players? Which sport is the easiest to play, in your opinion, and the easiest to go pro at? So this is a three-pronged question.
I'll let you start.
Okay. In terms of which sport requires the most athleticism from its players, I think it's football. I think football, you just have to be a different breed of athletic. Like, we were talking about guys like Nikola Jokic, who doesn't look like an athlete, doesn't necessarily move like an athlete. You can get away with that in the NBA because he's incredibly skilled. You can't really get away with that in the NFL.
Yep.
Even the guys who are like 350-pound linemen, they are freak athletes.
Yep.
So I would say football requires the most athleticism. Which sport is the easiest to play? I mean, I don't really know how to answer this. Like, everyone has access generally to like a ball and a hoop somewhere, which is why it's so tough to get to the NBA, because it really weeds out the people who aren't talented enough. But like,
wait, what's the third question here?
The third question is easiest to go pro at.
Okay.
So this might be a really hot take. I think golf is the easiest to go pro at. The reason I think
that's not a hot take.
Not a hot take. Okay. For anyone who plays golf, they'll probably kill me for this. Like, the reason for that, and I'm not a great golfer by any stretch, you don't have an opponent in golf. You're just playing against the course. So if you practice forever, you can get singularly really, really good at the sport. Therefore, you're giving yourself a chance to become a professional. Whereas if you practice basketball all the time, you may have athletic limitations that make it so that you're never going to be as athletic as the next guy who's like maybe not practicing as hard as you, but like, you always have competition. There's someone guarding you on defense. In football, there's someone guarding you. Like, you have an opponent. Same thing with tennis as well. But like golf, it's you and the course.
Yep.
And therefore, if you practice long enough and hard enough, like, I mean, granted, it's still incredibly hard. It's like 0.0001% make it, but I think that would be the easiest, relatively speaking.
Yep. I would say the same thing for golf. I don't have such an eloquent reason for it. I just don't think that that golf is that hard. I do
think it's really freaking hard, dude. It's
so hard. I know. I also, the only time I played golf, the first hit of my entire golf career, my driver smashed into the ground and the head popped off and went like 200 yards forward, and then I had to bring it back to whatever place I got it at and said accidentally fell off doing something negligent. But anyway, golf, I will say, it also is one of the most mentally tough sports of all time. I don't
sure.
have the like mental fortitude of a golfer or of any professional athlete for that matter, but golf in particular, because it's an isolating sport.
Yeah.
I do think that is really required.
Yeah, for sure. I completely agree. Easily the most frustrating.
Yeah, most
infuriating sport
frustrating.
in the world because it's just you. You're
It's
like,
just you,
what
yeah.
the hell's wrong with me? Why can't I do this?
Also, we're talking like millimeters and like drastic changes.
So true.
Sport that requires most athleticism, I would probably say soccer. I don't know.
Interesting.
I think soccer, it requires a ton of endurance. It requires a ton of hand-eye. You're using a lot of different body parts. You're using your head, you're using your legs, you're using your shoulders. It requires strength, a specific kind of strength, obviously not like football,
Right.
but just like a ton of different attributes of what's required and athleticism. I do think that's probably up there.
Okay.
Easiest to play. Also don't quite get the question, honestly. You might even say soccer because all you need is a ball.
and
You know,
you just kick it.
yeah, a lot of people will like even make balls out of socks and things like this. So you don't
Right.
actually need a soccer ball. Like filling a fishnet with rocks. I don't know if that's really a thing, but I have read stories about that.
Yeah.
So maybe that.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm not sure.
I don't want to upset the soccer community, but when we get to that episode, I'm going to push you a little bit on the soccer
Well,
athleticism.
yeah, we can definitely talk more.
we'll cross that bridge when we get there.
And I think that's it.
Yeah,
That's it for Basketball 101.
Yeah.
Again, follow us, Rookie Mistakes _pod on YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram.
Yup. Rate, review, subscribe, do all the things.
Do all the things. Share with your friends, share with your family, share with your peers, share with your enemies, share with everyone.
Yeah. That 5-star rating helps a ton. So thank you guys for tuning in. We'll catch you next week.
All right. See you later.